Good evening. Today is Monday, November 17, 2025. I call to order a meeting of the Brockton Finance Committee. Will everyone please rise and join me in honoring our country by saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, agenda item number 1, please.
Item 1 was the appointment of Francis J. Kalinowski, retired of Newbury Street, Brockton, Mass., as a special police officer. Invited Francis J. Kalinowski III.
Mr. Zanowski, good evening.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I 100% support this endeavor. Frank Zanowski is a proud Brocktonian, graduate from Brockton High School in 1988. He used to coach freshman football at Brockton High, but more importantly, his status as a recently retired police officer. He had a stellar career with the city of Brockton, and I proudly support this, making him a special police officer. I hope you'll vote in favorable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Sarkowski, do you have anything there?
Well, I want to thank the mayor for his kind words. And I just, I had a fantastic 28 years, and you kind of know when it's time to end it full-time, and I would like to try to have the opportunity to continue on performing as a part-time police officer, as a special, would be an honor to be able to serve this community still.
Thank you, sir.
Motion to recommend favorably to the city council.
Motion is motion made, properly seconded, recommend this matter, appointment favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? The appointment is recommended favorable. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Item 2 is the appointment of F. Peter Gaskins, Jr. of 101 Country Club Lane, Brockton, Mass., to the Cemetery Board of Trustees for a 5-year term ending in November 2029. Invited F. Peter Gaskins, Jr.
Mr. Gaskins. Councilors, I don't see Mr. Gaskins in council chambers. Councilor McCastro.
Mr. Gaskins is my constituent, and I did try to call him about 10 minutes ago and did not get him. May I make a motion to postpone until the end of the meeting? Second.
Motion is made, properly seconded, to postpone this matter to the end of this agenda. All in favor? Anyone opposed? The matter is postponed. Thank you. Number 3.
Item 3, order the City Council authorizing the acceptance and expenditure of the total grant funds in the amount of $352,620 from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security to the Brockton Police Department. Invited Police Chief Brendan Perez and or designee, CFO Dr. Troy Clarkson.
Ms. Kennedy, good evening. Floor is yours, sir.
This is the municipal staff aware, which helps us maintain safe and proper staff aware. There's no reproducer every time, so sure, usually it's safe. When we receive this channel, we will put it out.
Councilors, any questions? Councilor Castro.
Thank you, Mr. Skinner. I just want to confirm, there's no match from the city.
That's right.
No match. It's very good. Thank you. Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council.
Second.
Motion is made, properly seconded, to recommend this matter favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? The order is recommended favorable. Thank you, Sergeant.
Item number 4, ordered, whereas the Loverbrook area is considered to be a decadent area because of the diversity of ownership, irregular lot sizes, or obsolete street patterns, and also for excessive land coverage. Whereas the city with the Department of Planning and Economic Development and the Brockton Redevelopment Authority prepared the Loverbrook Urban Renewal Plan to support goals and to take necessary action to implement the plan. Whereas the Brockton Planning Board determined that the Loverbrook Urban Renewal Plan is based on a local survey and is consistent with the Brockton Comprehensive Plan, a blueprint for Brockton, and approved said plan in its August 5th, 2025 meeting. Whereas the Brockton Redevelopment Authority will meet to consider approval of the Loverbrook Urban Renewal Plan as an urban renewal plan prepared in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 121B and 760 CMR 12.00, as amended from time to time. Now therefore, be it ordered as follows. City Council finds that there is a clear need for an urban renewal plan in order to achieve the approved objective of the Brockton Comprehensive Plan, a blueprint for Brockton. 2, the Loverbrook Urban Renewal Plan is described in Exhibit A attached here 2, prepared by Guinness Land Strategy Group, Ty and Bond, and RKG Associates, dated October 6, 2025, is an urban renewal plan prepared in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 121B, and 760 CMR 12.00. 3, that the City Council approves the boundaries of the Lovett Brook Urban Renewal Plan as depicted in Exhibit A. 4, that the area contained in the Lovett Brook Urban Revitalization District project boundaries is a lighted open area as designated by Mass General Law, Chapter 121B, and as described in the findings and declaration, excuse me, of the Brockton Redevelopment Authority approved on October 23, 2025, and is in need of revitalization and redevelopment. 5, that the City Council approves the Lovett Brook Urban Renewal Plan as described in Exhibit A attached here 2, prepared by Innis Land Strategies Group, Ty and Bond, and RKG Associates, dated October 6, 2025. 6, that the City Council requests the mayor to submit the urban revitalization plan together with such other materials as required to the Department of Housing and Community Development for final approval. 7, that the City Council requests the mayor to submit an environmental notification form to the Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act, MEPA office for a MEPA certificate. 8, that upon final approval of the urban renewal plan and during its duration, requests that the Brockton Redevelopment Authority report annually on the status of implementation of the urban renewal plan. 9, that the City Council authorizes the mayor to approve minor, non-substantive language changes to the urban revitalization plan if such changes are recommended by the Department of Housing and Community Development or MEPA office. 10, that this order shall take effect upon the final approval of the urban revitalization plan by the Department of Housing and Community Development. Invited Interim Director of Planning and Economic Development, John Fay, and/or any designees.
Councilors, I'm going to have the mayor speak on this matter briefly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I sent an email today to both Mr. President in his capacity as chair and also to Tim Cruz in his capacity as clerk. Mr. Fay no longer works for the city of Brockton. He resigned late last week. So I would humbly ask for this matter to be postponed so that a date certain can be determined. Couple things. I think it would be important to have the consultant also invited under this. It would give all of you as city councilors the ability to ask questions of the consultant, which I think is extremely important. And then quite honestly, I just had a meeting recently with Bob Rivers, the CEO of Eastern Bank. They've acquired Harbor One, as you know. The merger already came through. The Oak Street building is now owned by Eastern Bank. Matt Hesketh, CEO of BMC South, the former Good Sam, also joined that meeting because both BMC South and Eastern Bank own a large piece of the land that is included within Lovett Brook. So I wanted to have a meeting of the minds with those individuals. And then, as you know, January 5th, there'll be a new mayor sworn in. So I would humbly ask for a postponement, a date certain under this calendar year still, so the consultants and someone from the planning board is able to come before this body.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Lally.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I recognize that, you know, now that comes the discussion of postponement, but without a date certain, without an interim or full-time director in the planning department, and given that we have a limited number of meetings left, I put to the council, would it not be better advantageous to just table it and take this up in the next term?
Well, I mean, if you're going to make a motion to table, I think we would have a discussion about, a vote on that. But the request was to postpone this matter. We can postpone it to the next Finance Committee meeting, and then, try to gather additional information between now and then. And if the ultimate decision is to table, we can do so at that time. But at this point, I think we should keep this matter alive
I'll withhold from a motion because I see a couple of hands, but just wanted to throw that out there.
Just a point of information, if the motion is to table, there is no discussion.
There's no discussion.
I don't believe he made a
No.
motion.
I did not.
Okay.
No.
Councilor Farwell.
Couple of questions for the mayor, if I could.
Councilor.
Mr. Mayor, this particular item would place in the BRA's domain responsibility for the Lovett Brook project development. We already know that I think it's $1.4 million is being researched because there was insufficient paperwork to justify the expenditure of that money by the BRA. I believe we recently had a judgment against the city for 93 Center Street because we didn't pay adequate relocation services?
It's not against the city at all. City is not a party to that.
Against the BRA?
The BRA, and again, that's a separate entity that is not part of the city, so the city is not on the hook legally.
I understand that, but this particular plan talks about a massive undertaking of acquiring properties, paying relocation costs. This could literally be in the millions and millions of dollars. And
The city
I'm
is not on the
sure-
hook legally.
Well,
I didn't hear that.
I would say,
It wasn't me, it's delayed. It's delayed.
My concern is that I don't see anything in here that identifies what is ultimately going to be the city's responsibility financially for this project. But I'm also concerned, because you mentioned a minute ago that one of the major landowners is Boston Medical Center South. So I reached out to some people that I know at BMC.
Counselor, if I may, I think we're going to postpone this matter. The mayor's not the invited guest, he's not the consultant, he's not the planner. You got legitimate concerns and questions, and I want to make sure that those are answered. But if we're going to postpone it, then I think the next FinCom meeting's the time to have that discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I thought the issue was either table or postpone. But if you want to push the issue, then I'm going to move to table it, because I do not believe we're going to have information within the next 6 weeks to handle this matter.
Would you hold your motion until Councilor Darrencourt has a chance to speak?
Yes, I will.
Excellent. Mr. Mayor, thank you. In regard to the abrupt resignation of the planning director, so who's in charge of it right now? Like, who's there? I know you got some stuff.
So first of all, I don't speak about personnel matters because HR director is with that right now. We've already posted the position for the former planner's position, which was Rob May, and then planner 3 was Mr. Fair. That's been posted as well. So we've had a meeting. Right now, we are working with Sandra Knight. We're working with Megan Bridges, a solicitor, to monitor that. The weekly payroll has to be signed off by me as the mayor for the planning board. But that's the answer.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, so I'm like, who
Yep.
was in charge of it? Okay.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Motion to table this matter.
Second.
Motion,
So you have a motion table with a second.
well, you're right, I'm just waiting for a second. Motion
We
is made.
did get a
I
second.
just
Oh, did you
seconded
say-
it.
oh, sorry, I didn't hear you.
It's all right.
Motion's made, properly seconded to table this matter. All in favor of tabling? Anyone opposed? Matter's tabled.
Item 5, ordered a waiver of the City of Brockton's residency requirements under Section 2-110 of the city ordinances for firefighter Derek Scully. Invited firefighter Derek Scully.
No, just real quick.
Evening,
members
Mr.
of the
Scully.
committee,
Mr.
Chairman,
Mayor.
I do support this request. My letter indicated the reasons for that. Again, Mr. Scully, under my belief, met the residency when he was a Brockton police officer. I asked the chief how he is doing, the fire chief, Mr. Nardelli. He is an exceptional Brockton Fire Department member right now. And again, I would respectfully, as you know, as the mayor, I take it very serious. 14 years as a city councilor, I took it serious on waivers. But I do think that this individual is ripe for a waiver. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, councilors. Thank you. I just real quick, I'll just tell you, I was approached about this after looking at the situation with firefighter Scully and the 7 years he spent as a Brockton police officer, now 3 with us. I thought, it would be warranted, and I put a letter forward to the mayor recommending this that you have in front of you right now. But I support this wholeheartedly along with the mayor.
Thank you, Chief.
Motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
Motion is made, properly second to recommend this matter favorably. On the motion.
On the motion, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, I know you personally. We went to school together. But for those of us that know me up here, is residency requirement. This is not something that I support, and I will not pretend to do so tonight. And obviously, I'm not gonna go into details in terms of why. But in my view, if somebody is willing, to work for Brockton, they must be willing to live here, and that will not change. So there's no way that I could possibly, support this. I just want to put it on the record that I will vote against it. I just want to say that, and good luck.
Thank you, Councilor. Motion, Councilor Nicastro.
Thank you. On the motion, just as a point of information, Counselor, through you, Mr. Scully served 7 years on the police department, and then decided he was going to give the firefighters a try. He's been on the firefighters for 3 years, so he has been in the employ of the city for 10 years. And that's why I am also very sensitive to residency, but he's spending his time here. He's really has put 10 years in. And so I just throw that out to you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I call the vote.
Say again?
I call the vote, Mr. Chairman.
Just 1 minute.
There would have to be a vote on that.
Well, then I trigger that process.
No, there has, for a call the vote, there has to be a vote, right?
No.
Well, there's a motion on the floor, and it was seconded.
Okay. Councilor, we're going to just vote on the motion that's currently on the floor. Motion is made, properly seconded, to recommend this matter favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? One's opposed. Order is recommended favorable.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, councilors.
Thank you.
Item 6, ordered that the city council approves the acceptance of an annual $1,000 COLA increase in the maximum base amount upon which the COLA is calculated for Brockton retirement pension payments for 2026 through 2031, as described in the chart below. Year 2025, threshold $14,000, max COLA $420. 2026, threshold $15,000, max COLA $450, with yearly increases $30. Year 2027, threshold $16,000, max COLA $480, yearly increases $30. Year 2028, threshold $17,000, max COLA $510, yearly increases $30. Year 2029, threshold is $18,000, max COLA is $540, increases $30. Year 2030, threshold is $19,000, max is max is $570, $30 increase. Year 2031, threshold is $20,000, max COLA is $600, increases $300. Invited, Director Gene Martineau, CFO Dr. Troy Clarkson.
Councilors, before we begin, I just want the record to show that Councilor Farwell has recused himself due to a conflict on this matter. Good evening, Mr. CFO. Madam Martineau, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening. I did provide a fairly detailed description of this agenda item in my memo to you yesterday, and the clerk read the full description of the order. What we're seeking here, and you did this once before, a year or two ago, it requires a vote of the City Council to approve a COLA adjustment for the retirees. And as I noted in my narrative, we've been, as you know, working with the Retirement Board on the question of whether or not to issue additional pension debt that it was authorized by you several years ago. But we didn't take the maximum amount. You authorized $360 million, and we issued $300 million in pension debt. So we have ongoing discussions with our financial advisors and with the Retirement Board about whether or not to issue that additional $60 million in pension debt. As part of those discussions and our discussions with the Retirement Board to suggest some adjustments in the assumed rate of return for our investments and of our required date to fully fund our pension obligations, one of the suggestions the Retirement Board made in the meetings we had with them was to use some of that savings from those adjustments and increasing the COLA. So this chart that's before you represents that agreement that we reached that would result in those annual increases of $1,000 up until 2031. So that's what's before you. And Jeannie Martineau from the Retirement Board is here to answer additional questions or to provide more detail on what I've presented to you. But this is an agreement between the city and the Retirement Board.
Ms. Martineau, if you had anything to add? If not, we can go into questions.
I just want to make it clear that, you know, the maximum COLA, cost of living increase, that any retiree is receiving is $420 a year. even though the board may grant 3%, it's only on the first $14,000 of their income. So as you can see from the letter that I sent, even increasing it in increments of 1,000 on the threshold is only giving them an annual increase of $30,000. Of $30 a year. So I just ask you to act favorably on this.
Great. Councilors, any questions? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to recommend favorably.
Motion is properly made and seconded to recommend this order favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? The order is recommended favorable. Thank you.
Item 7, ordered that the City of Brockton does hereby take in fee in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 79, and/or other applicable law, the following described parcels of land, parcels of land, to wit, 25 Crescent Street, Brockton, Mass. 02301. For further reference, see Plymouth County Registry of Deeds Certificate number 93337, Book 466, page 137, document number 427528. We have considered and estimated the damages sustained by all persons who have not waived damages in their several estates, and hereby determine and award the same as follows, to be paid from Community Block Development Grant Funds. Property address owner, 25 Crescent Street, 25 Crescent Street Realty Trust, with the amount of $600,000. Said taking shall include all trees, soil, or fixtures thereon. Invited Mayor Robert Sullivan, City Solicitor Megan Bridges and/or her designee, CFO Dr. Troy Clarkson, Interim Commissioner of Buildings William Ford.
Mr. Mayor, good evening.
Mr. Chairman, just to let you know, 25 Crescent Street is in between the Joe Angelo's parking lot and the school department. It is Alan Trefangson's law office. It was the original Crescent Credit Bank back in the day. Just for a quick reference, Mr. Trefangson reached out unsolicited to the mayor's office, said he wanted to sell the building. He wanted to give the city the first option on it. I asked the solicitor to do all the process because, as you know, when a municipality buys any piece of land, it's a taking, either hostile or friendly. This would be a friendly taking. It would be used for purposes of city endeavors. I will tell you right now, again, my term is going to conclude on January 5th, but the next mayor is going to have to deal with where we put the Board of Health, because the Stadinsky building is about 95% utilized by the Brockton School Department. And the Board of Health, again, is in a tight quarters, and with the Health and Human Services created by this esteemed body and signed by Governor Healy, there needs to be a much better conducive property. I believe that this is a piece of property that is valuable. It's valuable for the city of Brockton, but it also would be valuable if a taxpayer would pay it. As you know, the money is CDBG. We had $1 million set aside to acquire Father Bill's mainspring. This body decided not to move forward on that, and that was the will of the legislative body. I will tell you that it subsequently has been bought by a nonprofit, the Masons in Dorchester, Massachusetts, so the city will not be getting any tax revenue whatsoever of the Father Bill's mainspring property. But this building, again, if it was acquired, I believe it would be utilized in a manner that would be more beneficial. The parking authority would be there because it's right across from the Adams Garage. But quite honestly, if this body doesn't have the will to do it, I'm okay with that, because at the end of the day, we negotiate in good faith, but we made it clear to the seller, who is an esteemed attorney, that only the city council can authorize the purchase, acquisition, and also the financial means to do that. And perhaps maybe it's ripe to have the next mayor do it, but I told Mr. Trefangson through the solicitor's office that in good faith we would move forward and see what the interest is from this legislative body. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilors, any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I spoke with the mayor today, and I indicated to him that I think at this juncture, because economic development is so important, I would prefer to leave this as commercial property, possibly to be developed by a commercial entity, leave it on the tax rolls rather than have the city assume ownership. So I indicated that I would be moving to table this matter, and I so move.
Second.
A motion has been made to table this agenda item. All in favor of tabling? Anyone opposed? Matter's tabled.
Thank you, councilors.
Thank you.
Item 8, ordered that the City Council authorizes the acceptance and expenditure of the total grant funds in the amount of $425,000 From the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, $425,000. 2, Parks and Recreation, $425,000. Invited, excuse me, Superintendent of Parks Tim Carpenter and CFO Dr. Troy Clarkson.
Mr. Clerk? I'd like to motion to accept an amendment. This item needs to be amended.
Second?
So, do we want to do it at the end or do it at the beginning?
This is what we should do it as, actually as a substitute order. So we do want to do it now, though.
Do it now?
Yes.
Okay. And just that number, if you wanted to state the number that we're seeking an amendment to?
Number
So
8.
it's listed as 425,000, and it should be 680,000.
I'll read the-
But Mr. Clerk was going to read.
I'll read the
So
new order.
it's a whole new order. Okay, not an, okay, go ahead.
Whereas DW Field Park is a valued city asset and the improvement and preservation of the park is a top priority of both the mayor and council, and whereas DW Field Park is dedicated to park and recreation purposes under Mass General Law, Chapter 45, Section 3, and whereas the ultimate restoration of DW Field Park will greatly improve the facility's infrastructure, pass systems, and lighting, and whereas the Executive Office of Energy and Affairs is offering reimbursable grants to cities and towns to support the preservation and restoration of urban parks through the Parkland Acquisitions and Renovations for Communities Grant Program, 301 CMR 5.00, and whereas Phase 1 of the DW Field Restoration Project will cost a total of $680,000, and the city will allocate $680,000 in Community Development Block Grant Funds and/or American Rescue Plan funds for Phase 1 of the DW Field Restoration Project. Now therefore be it that the mayor be and is hereby authorized to file and accept grants from the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, and that the mayor is hereby authorized to take such actions, other actions necessary to carry out the terms, purposes, and conditions of this grant to be administered by the Parks and Recreation Department, and that this resolution shall take effect upon passage. Submitted by Councilor Razak.
Councilors, a motion is made to substitute the order as read by the clerk. All in favor of substitution? Anyone opposed? The order is substituted. Good evening, Mr. Superintendent, Mr. CFO.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Why don't I just give you a quick financial overview, and then Mr. Carpenter can speak to the specifics of the project. And so the language is to allow for up to the total cost of the project, which is the $680,000. Essentially, the way this grant works is that that's the total cost of the project. The city is asked to expend out of its funds the total cost of the project, and then is eligible for reimbursement through the grant for the $425,000. And so we would commit money both from the DW Field Trust and then additional funds of a little over $100,000 that the city would commit from either Community Development Block Grant or remaining ARPA funds. And so that's why that alternative language was suggested to you, so that we can fulfill our requirement of paying for the entire project and then seeking the grant to reimburse that $425,000 portion.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good evening, councilors, and thank you for having me. So this park grant would be utilized at DW Field Park, what is we are calling the Tower Hill parking lot. That is the paved parking lot just beyond and to the left of the tower. Some people refer to it as the Pentagon or zigzag parking lots. So that's the area that we would be looking to improve. As you know, we've been working with Wildlands Trust, specifically around DW Field Park since 2022. In late 24, early 25, we did release the master plan, Phase 1, which is the center section of the park. And in my opinion, a plan is only good when it's implemented, and this is the first step in implementing that plan. So I would appreciate your support for this grant.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Councilor Farwell.
Because the Department of Revenue watches us quite carefully, I just wanted to raise a point of parliamentary inquiry, and that is, can the Finance Committee accept a substitute order? We can obviously amend something that's before us. We can't increase an amount, for example, that the mayor may recommend. We can always approve as submitted, or we can reduce an amount. But I'm unclear as to whether the Finance Committee can accept in a substitute order. My understanding, that was always a city council issue, then to be referred to a committee. But, I mean, I'm not looking to be an obstructionist, but I just want to make sure this doesn't come back to us because we inadvertently made a misstep here.
Luckily, we have our legislative council. Stand by.
Mr. Chairman, may I offer, in response to that, while the Corporation Council is considering this, just a point of clarification, because I believe the order that's before the council is to accept the $425,000 grant, and that has not been altered. What was substituted was sort of the narrative proclamation going alongside that, that just, I think, provided better clarity about how the project was going to work. But I believe the order that was filed was to accept the grant of $425,000, and that's still what you're being asked to do.
Well, what was read, I believe, is a different number.
Yeah.
That's a no.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's just the result.
So the advice would be to act on the order before you, which is the grant amount and the acceptance of that. This is additional language as a resolve that you guys can act upon at council meeting as a late file. They can be handled as two separate items. Accept the grant, which is what is before you, and then the language on the resolve to be able to provide to the grant committee can be done as a late file separately.
So that would come back, if I could, through the chair to you. So that would come back in at a council meeting as opposed to this evening. We can still accept what's before us.
Correct. We'll withdraw this motion and do it as a...
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we were operating on the right premise here.
Understood. So, who made that motion?
I'll withdraw my motion.
I withdraw my second.
We vote on that? We don't.
Turn my vote.
No, we don't have to, no.
Just let the record show that the motion to substitute order has been withdrawn.
So the order in front of you is just as originally read for the $425,000.
Councilors, do we have any questions on the original order of 425?
So motion to recommend that favorably to the entire city council.
Second.
Motion is made, properly seconded to recommend the order favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? The order is recommended favorable. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Number 9.
Item 9, the city council authorizes the acceptance and expenditure of the total grant funds in the amount of $194,150 from Mass Development Finance Agency to Planning and Economic Development. Invited Interim Director of Planning and Economic Development, John Fay, CFO, Dr. Troy Clarkson.
Mr. Clarkson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I noted in my memo to you, this is a grant from Mass Development, and the language directly from that grant is to assess, monitor, and remediate environmental issues at 307 Montello Street.
Motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
Second.
Motion is made, properly seconded to recommend this order favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? The order is recommended favorable. Thank you. Number 10.
Item 10, ordered that the City of Brockton grants to Eversource Gas Company of Massachusetts, DBA Eversource Energy, a non-exclusive right and easement hereinafter the easement over and under city-owned lands identified as 466 Forest Ave, Brockton, Mass. The premises are more particularly described in a taking by the City of Brockton dated December 30, 1935, filed in the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds, hereinafter the registry, in Book 1700, page 345. The premises being shown and described on a certain map or plan entitled Plan Showing Land Taking from Flag Ice and Coal Company, Inc., for park purposes, Brockton, Mass., dated December 16, 1935, prepared by A.J. Macefield, City Engineer, filed with the said registry in Plan Book 5, page 497, and currently identified in whole as parcel number 020-001 on the City of Brockton, Massachusetts Assessor's Tax Map. And further, the City Council authorizes the mayor to execute the attached easement and to take other actions necessary to carry out the terms, purposes, and conditions of the same. Invited City Solicitor Megan Bridges and/or designee, CFO Dr. Troy Clarkson.
Madam Solicitor, good evening.
Good evening.
Floor is yours.
Excellent, thank you. In your packet, did you all receive a letter from Eversource that explained the situation? Okay, so I don't want to read directly from the letter, but I just want to make sure you have it. Because really the background is that Eversource determined there was not a recorded easement over an existing utility. They contacted Pat Hill, the DPW commissioner, and they just want to create a clear title record and their access to the site. So Eversource determined that there was no existing easement in place for the existing gas main, and they would like to request and propose the easement for the existing gas main so that they can do planned work to continue to maintain, repair, and operate the gas line. That's all this is about. It's clearing up an old title issue.
Thank you, Madam Solicitor. Councilors, any questions?
Motion to recommend favorably?
Second.
Motion is made, properly seconded. Recommend this order favorable. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Order is recommended favorable. Thank you, Madam Solicitor.
Thank you.
Councilor Lally.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to amend item 11 before we even, read it in. I just figured I'd offer the motion.
No, I'll read
Read it in? Okay.
Item 11, ordered that in accordance with Chapter 483 of the Acts of 2004, Chapter 483, which authorized the city to authorize and issue pension obligation bonds to the City Council, affirms the $66,500,000 unfunded accrued actuarial liability of the City of Brockton Retirement System. As such amount has been determined by the Brockton Retirement Board, the city's Chief Executive Officer, and the City Treasurer. Invited Executive Director Gene Martineau, CFO Dr. Troy Clarkson, Treasurer-Collector Martin Brophy.
Councilor Lally again.
Yep, I'd like to make a motion to amend, and the clerk's office has a copy of the amendment.
Mr. Clerk.
I need a second.
Second.
I do have letters of support from Dr. Clarkson and the mayor. Ordered that in accordance with Chapter 483 of the Acts of 2004, Chapter 483, which authorized the city to authorize and issue pension obligation bonds, the City Council affirms the $59,758,000 unfunded accrued actuarial liability of the City of Brockton's retirement system. As such amount has been determined by the Brockton Retirement Board, the city's Chief Executive Officer, and the City Treasurer. So the amendment is to change the number from $66,500,000 to $59,758,000.
And the language on the order remains the same, other than the number itself. Councilors, motion is made, properly seconded, to amend the order to reflect $59,758,000.
We'll vote on the amendment.
We'll vote. All in favor? Anyone opposed? The amendment passes. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First and foremost, just to explain that process to you, when we filed, what we had in there was a placeholder based on the information we had available at the time. In the intervening period, our actuary, and the letter was provided to you, provided the updated actuarial figure. So that is that $59,758,000 figure. The reason why this is before you, as you know, and as I discussed a few minutes ago, you authorized the issuance of $360 million in pension debt. That has been very successful for the city. We issued $300 million of that, and we've been involved in a very detailed and lengthy process to decide whether or not to issue the remaining amount. What Bond Counsel Rick Manley has determined is that the only formal step for the council in that process is to do what you're in the process of doing now, and that is to certify that indeed that amount that's remaining, the accrued liability for the city, is that $59,758,000. And so we're still in the process of determining the efficacy of issuing that debt, although it does look like with interest rates where they are, and with our strong position in the market, that we will go ahead and issue additional pension debt in the next month or so. So we will, as I always do, keep you apprised of that process, but this is a formal step, and obviously an important member of our team, Marty Brophy, is here with me tonight, and either of us can answer any questions that you might have.
Councilor Farwell.
Okay, let's go back just a little bit, 2 or 3 years. We borrowed $300 million for the unfunded pension liability. Did that fully satisfy the unfunded pension liability at that time?
No, it did not, and that was by design, because we didn't believe it was fiscally prudent to put us in a position where we could potentially be over 100% funded, because we would then be spending interest costs for money that we didn't need. So we intentionally left a buffer, which is why at the time we borrowed just the 300 and not the 360. And so that's why we left money on the table and are looking now at some amount up to that 59, but frankly, if we do issue more, it will be less than that for that same reason.
Right, so several years ago, was the amount 59 million, or was it less, if you know? In other words, I'm looking to see the growth in unfunded pension liability and what causes that, because if that's going to be a constant, then we're going to be looking at more and more money for unfunded pension liability, and the reasons that cause that are of concern.
I'll go back and check and get that figure for you, Counselor, but I believe that at the time, and Marty just confirmed that it was around that same amount. So what would have caused that amount to stay static despite the performance of our pension bond would have been issues like costs, salary costs that have been added since then. I can tell you, though, I do not anticipate between now and 2038 another opportunity to issue additional pension debt, and we just got the retirement board to agree to put the fully funded date out to 2038. The law allows it to be out to 2040. But given the amounts that we're talking about here, the market conditions, I don't anticipate that I or any future CFO or treasurer would request additional, because it wouldn't make sense. We will be funded close to 100%, and then would pay through our annual payments to the retirement board the full liability before 2038.
Do we know what the debt service amount will be on the 59 million?
Once we determine what we think the total amount will be, we will have, as we did before, a very explicit debt service schedule, and I'll gladly share that with you.
Approximately. Any idea approximately what it's going to cost us to borrow this money, and for how long?
I can get a debt service schedule to you. We're working on a daily basis with our financial advisors on those, and I'm not trying to be evasive, but it depends on a lot of factors, like what the interest rate is at the time and how much we determine to borrow. So those are the discussions we're having in real time right now. But the most updated figures I'll get to you tomorrow.
Okay. I very respectfully, and I know you and I go back and forth on a lot of issues, I think these are the types of things that we would like to know at the time we're going to have to make a decision on something of this nature. Will the debt service be obviously paid out of the general fund appropriation?
Yes, as it is now, but the math is, as it was with the initial 300 million, that because of the interest rates and because of the performance of the money that we borrow, that there is a savings, so that the amount that we pay in principal and interest is less than what our increasing accrued liability would have been if we did nothing. Right, so the annual payment that we make to satisfy the entire liability prior to 2038, that payment goes up and up. And so by issuing the debt and paying an interest rate, the total amount we're paying on an annual basis is less, and that is what gives us the budgetary savings.
And for the public, as salaries increase and people put in their service to the city, and then they ultimately retire, that's what drives your unfunded pension liability, correct?
Absolutely.
Especially if they live, hopefully, a long and healthy life.
which is exactly why our actuary looks at those factors, and that's how, because it's not an exact figure, right? An actuary makes calculations based on likelihood of things happening, but you can never predict when someone retires or when someone dies, and so those figures all contribute to the actual figure.
Okay, so obviously I don't object to doing what's right. I will tell you, though, and I say this to the counselors, and I'll say it to the incoming counselors, I really do start getting concerned about borrowing. $130 million for a public safety building, $59 million here. Other millions that I know we're paying down, eventually some of the debt service will go away. High school renovation could be $100 million, and I'm getting a very uneasy feeling. And I don't want to put you on the spot tonight, but are we getting to a point where we're going to compromise our ability to take care of other needs in the city without being specific? Are we getting to the point where the debt service is getting to that percentage of the annual budget that we should be a little bit concerned?
That's an excellent question. You're not putting me on the spot at all. I would say no, not at all. In fact, and I know that that opinion has been shared out there about us borrowing too much, but I would argue against that. And I think the initial pension debt is an excellent example of that. So our pension liability was escalating at a rate, and we were required to pay that amount to the retirement board at a rate that between 2021 and 2032, which was then the fully funded date, our annual payment out of the budget was due to double, right?
Yeah, towards the end, the city almost would have been paying, probably would have been paying around $72 million in pension debt. Or pension obligation. Just the yearly obligation was increasing at a very high rate. The unfunded liability had been paid off. The original one was 2028, the original date. It's now out to 2032. So this is extending it 4 more years that the city will be able to spread that liability out as well. So the liability decreases just by adding those years.
So I know it sounds counterintuitive, but by borrowing that initial $300 million, and this wasn't Troy's opinion, this was the opinion of our underwriters, our finance advisors, of the committee that we put together, of my predecessor, that we would save in real dollars as much as $95 million over the course of the 15 years of that initial pension debt. So by borrowing money, we saved because we were reducing that annual payment that Marty talked about. That's what enabled us to borrow the money to build the public safety building without a debt exclusion. So there were real, actual impacts in a positive way on the city's finances by borrowing that money. But with the indulgence of the chair, I'll just go a little further on that. You may see in the next legislative session other requests for borrowing. We're having conversations about a public works complex and a new building for the Public Works Department. And that could be as much as $40 million. However, in the enterprise funds for the water and the sewer, they have significant drop-off. And so they have declining debt. So we can take on additional debt and still have our overall debt payments lower than they are today. So what we're trying to do with very careful planning and input from a wide variety of professionals is to effectively manage the city's debt so that we can take on more debt but not create more of a burden for the taxpayers. So I'm very glad you answered that, because I know there's a lot of misinformation swirling around about the city's debt position.
No, and I like the fact that you're managing the debt service. However, we have to also assume that the cost of running the city is going to go up in terms of personal services, wage and salary adjustments, costs of goods and services, the dreaded T word, tariffs for the next 3 years, whatever effect that may have on things. And I just want to make sure that I have an uneasy feeling, but that's okay. Maybe it's better to be that way. I just want to make sure we're where we should be. Last question to put you on the spot. Mayor-elect Mayor-elect Moises Rodriguez is sworn into office, and 3 months later, he says, Dr. Clarkson, I need $100 million for high school renovation. We've been approved by the state. Are we going to be able to come up with it?
The answer to that question, and I've said it from this table before, is absolutely, unequivocally, yes.
Without a debt exclusion?
Without a debt exclusion, no. However, a debt exclusion for a small portion of that amount, because, and that's related to what we're talking about now, that first wave of the pension debt that you approved in 2021 will expire in 2036. So that's $300 million. Even though it was pension debt, it's what's known as general obligation debt. That will retire in 2036. So that's $300 million of debt service that's retiring. So we will have the ability, within the amount that we're paying for principal and interest, to replace that debt with some debt for the high school. And that's, we anticipate now, as we stand here today, that the city's share for that project could be roughly around $350 million for a $700 million plus project. The state will kick in up to 80%, but 80% up to a certain amount of construction per square foot, right? And so we know that the cost of construction will exceed what they're reimbursing us at. So realistically, that 80% comes down to 55 or 50%. So for simple math, a $700 million project will cost us $350 million. If we then take, when we build the high school, do what we call temporary debt and roll that debt until the pension debt expires, then we can take on that debt and our net increase will be $50 million. And the folks from left field are working on a very extensive program to show this to the public and to you. But what that means is we could potentially build a $700 million high school with the net impact on the taxpayers of the city of Brockton being $50 million in real dollars. And again, when we talk about that to interest groups and to taxpayers and homeowners and educational groups, we'll show that with graphs and charts, but we have a group of professionals similar to the group that we put together for the pension bond that are working on this, so that when we have those public discussions, it's not simply my opinion, but it's the opinion of third-party neutral professionals that will attest to the accuracy of what I've just said, so that the public understands we have a rare opportunity to actually build a brand new high school with a minimal impact on the taxpayers. And we plan on having a calculator on the city's website where homeowners can punch in the assessed value of their home, and it will show them what it's anticipated to cost per year.
Okay, but going back to your original conversation a couple of minutes ago, you are counting on at least a small portion, however you define small, to be a debt exclusion, given the fact that we're going to borrow $59 million and we borrowed the other $1 million.
That is my recommendation and has been for several years.
No, recommendation is one thing. You basically saying it's a requirement.
I believe so, but that will be the decision of the mayor and of the city council when that time comes.
All right, I'll leave that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Castro.
Thank you. Good evening, gentlemen. Just for everyone here who might not be as up on financial terms, explain what is a debt exclusion?
So as we are required or limited, the city and every city and town in Massachusetts is limited to raising the amount of property taxes we collect by only 2.5% each year. There are 3 ways that the voters, and only the voters, can exclude or increase taxes over and above that 2.5%. One is what's called an override, and that's where you increase the amount of taxes you can collect on a permanent basis forever and ever. The other 2 are related to capital investments. One's called a capital exclusion, and that's where you increase taxes for 1 year for one project. If you wanted to buy a bunch of backhoes and you could go, and that would require a vote of the legislative body and the voters, and you could increase taxes for 1 year, and then the taxes would come back down. The third, and most common, is a debt exclusion. So that's when the voters, with support of the legislative body, will agree to increase taxes for just for a finite period, for the duration of a borrowing for a capital project. So a city hall, a new school, a DPW building. And so that's what we're anticipating here. But again, what we anticipate, the net impact of that will be far less than the total cost of the project. But that would be sometime likely in the next calendar year, probably towards the end of the year, maybe at the November election, but that's still, that will be determined actually by the mayor and the council at the time, that we would ask the voters to vote to increase taxes for that high school project.
And how long would that increased tax amount last? How quickly will it burn off?
So that would be for the duration of the project, so it would be likely 20 to 30 years. And again, that final amount will be determined in the next year as we come up with the plan, probably 30 years, but could be as few as 20, depending on how the project finances come out.
And it'll almost be a separate line item that gets, you know, when you receive your tax bill, that gets applied to this particular debt?
Yes.
Yes, okay. My second question, so what are other municipal retirement boards doing to address unfunded pension liabilities? Because surely we're not the only community who has these.
That's a great question. So if you look just in the general geographic area of Brockton, I think most of the communities in our general area are part of the Plymouth County retirement system. They actually don't have the ability to issue pension debt because we have a special act going back many years from when the city did it the first time that enables us to do that. So it requires a special act of the legislature to allow you to do this. So in Plymouth County, the communities really don't have a lot of options. They don't have the luxury of the option that we have to issue pension debt to reduce their liability. So they're struggling. If you look throughout Plymouth County, communities are struggling because it's not just pensions, it's rising healthcare costs. And as we well know, rising school transportation and special education costs. So the challenges that we felt over the last several years are in no way unique to Brockton. They're being felt throughout the eastern Massachusetts. We have the ability to deal with them because we're self-funded for health insurance and because our predecessors had the foresight to do a pension debt program a dozen years ago that enabled us to now look at doing it now.
Thank you.
2 dozen years ago.
2 dozen? Yeah? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Davenport.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. CFO, in regard to borrowing money, right? I mean, obviously, we are very good at doing that. And what makes me somewhat uneasy is the fact that our children will have to pay for it. But let's just get to the question. What is the city bond rating as we speak? What is the city of Brockton bond rating compared to New Bedford, Fall River? What is it?
I don't know New Bedford's and Fall Rivers, but we are rated by both S&P and Moody's. If the question, Councilor, relates to the AA plus versus the AA minus debate that occurred during the campaign.
No, this is not a debate. This is me asking you a question as a city council. And I would like you to put it in simple terms, right? So there you go. You talk about debate. It's over. I'm asking you questions as a city councilor, and I would like you to put it in simple terms for people that may not have your ability to speak big math. The average person in Brockton or the Brockton citizen can understand what is the city of Brockton bond rating.
Understood, and I understand your desire for brevity and clarity, Councilor, but as I said to you, we actually have bond ratings from 2 different agencies, from Moody's and S&P. They rate differently. The ratings that they provide are different. We actually, when we go and seek to issue debt, we often get debt that's what's called backed by the Commonwealth, and so we go to the Municipal Finance Oversight Board, and we ask the Commonwealth to back our debt, and at least every time that I've been before them, they've approved that. So we get what's called the full faith and credit of the Commonwealth that backs our debt. That changes our rating. So it varies based on what's being issued at the time. And so what I will gladly do is provide you an email that explains all of that you can share with members of the public, so that, because it doesn't have a simple answer. They're very complex answers to your simple question.
Mr. CFO, with all due respect, right, so here we are. And how long have you been a CFO in here?
Since
How long have you been
2019.
Okay, so there you are, as the Chief Financial Officer. That's your job, right, which you're getting paid for. I ask you a simple question. What is the bond rating for the city of Brockton? And you are not able to tell us, but
Mr. Chairman, if I might ask you to step in, that is not a true statement.
Well, you don't ask him to step in. He was speaking earlier, quite sometimes. My colleague over there, the difference is that, right, it's me asking you the questions, which you may not want to answer, and you will.
No, Counsel, the difference is you're trying to bait me and be able to say that I don't know the answer to the question, which is patently false. I very well know the answer to the question and offered to provide it to you in a detailed email tomorrow so that my words aren't misconstrued.
Councilor, can you answer that question if you have another?
No, I'm not done yet. So I'm not a CFO. I am a elected official here, and I was voted by the people. And to go back to what you said, you just saw what happened, overwhelmingly. The question that I'm asking you, it's not my question. It's a question of the people who voted for me to be here. Well, obviously, you can send me an email that I can read, but how many people will have access to that? There you are, asking to borrow money, millions of dollars on the taxpayer money. And at the end of the day, to go back to my colleague in regard to the question that I was asking you, what is the interest on that? How much you're gonna pay? How long it's gonna last? These are valid questions. So don't make this personal. And then again, that's the difference between me asking you direct questions and playing politics. This is not politics. This is spending taxpayer money. And at the end of the day, the children of this community will have to pay for it. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now. So this is not a joke, and this is a finance meeting whereby we talk about money. So me asking you those questions, it's based on your job definition.
Council, is there a
Jeff,
question?
listen, of course it is. Listen, when Council Farrell was speaking, for a long time, you never acknowledge. When Council Nukashu was talking, you never, but I do. The question is simple. What is the bond rating? There must be a number. There must be a number. Come up with a number. And again, to go back to what my colleague stated earlier, give us an estimation. It doesn't have to be specific. What is the bond rating? And again, you said it, I talk about this throughout this campaign. You acknowledge campaign. And I said we are AA-. And again, you challenge that indirectly. So tonight, on the record, the question is, what is the bond rating? You said two different entities. A says this, B says that. What is it? Because for the average person who may not understand what are we doing tonight, we are about to vote in regard to borrowing money, and that money will have to be paid back. The question is, what do we have in it for the people? Pretty simple. And you cannot. I don't need you to send me an email.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. And I must challenge the notion that the council is putting forth, because he is trying to create a scenario in which he can say I didn't answer the question. I answered the question quite thoroughly and said that we are rated by different agencies, by S&P, by Moody's, I am very well aware, and I'm not aware how that in any forum I challenged his notion that it was AA minus, but now that he brings it up, it was in fact at that time AA plus, but that's only one of the rating agencies that provides it, and we don't predict what the rating is before we issue debt, because then we have meetings with the rating agencies, and every time we issue debt, they issue a new rating. And so I have always been transparent and very open, but I also understand the nature of the question, and so I'm trying to answer it honestly and not be used as a pawn in a debate whereby my words are misconstrued and presented to mean something that I didn't intend.
Well, I'm satisfied with your answer, Counselor. If you have an additional question.
Oh, I do.
But
I do. So,
go ahead. Ask your question.
Jeff, listen, man. You've done that before, and people seen it. I'm not.
Just address.
No,
address. If you have a question.
Listen, man. So, here's what I will not do.
You're gonna lose the floor.
You can, and it will be on the record. You cannot try to shut me down whenever I'm talking to somebody who works
Counselor,
for the people.
my job is to make sure we stay on track. You asked the same question 3 times. The CFO answered it to the best of his ability 3 times. So now let's move on. If you had another question.
Is it you versus me now?
No. I'm the chairman of this committee.
Which we voted you in to preside over this.
So it's my job to keep this process moving forward.
Just let me ask him the question.
That you have not already asked 3 times and answered 3 times.
Let me get to. I'm not going to even bite about this one. So, in regard to the financial state of the city of Brockton, are we in a better place than 2024, coming to 2026 as the CFO? Are we in a better state?
Yes.
Can you explain that? What do you mean by that?
Well, in 2024, we were recovering from an $18 million deficit caused by the schools. We've been able to satisfy that. And those same rating agencies, which not only give a bond rating, but they give what's called an outlook. And in 2024, our outlook was negative. That has been changed to stable, meaning the bond rating agency themselves looked at the city's financial condition and made an official statement that they believed our outlook was improving because of the steps that we had taken. So, Councilor, that's an objective third-party analysis of the city's financial condition, and it's them saying that we're in a better position than we were the year before.
Yeah, Mr. CFO, as you and I know, that I do a lot of research, and oftentimes when I ask questions, right, it's not just randomly, they are calculated. So you said it in regard to that. What I said, that it was a AA minus. I mean, that's a loaded statement for the person who may not understand math. But you as a CFO, right, you do have the ability to give speeches, and which you're very good at. But the question that I asked you in regard to spending money, which we've done a lot, and the council thoroughly acknowledge it, 130 million borrow, 50 million borrow, 20 million borrow. There's so much to be borrowed there. So as the chief financial officer, I find it somewhat uncomfortable, given the fact that you do not have the ability on the record tonight to talk about the bond rating. With that being said, I will leave it there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think the question was asked and answered now 4 times.
And understood. Councilors, that'll be the end of that agenda item. Motion is made, properly seconded, to recommend this order as amended favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? The order is recommended as amended favorable. Thank you, gentlemen.
He's grilled.
For the order, we did the amendment.
Okay. Understood. Councilors, there was no final order to recommend this motion as amended. So if I'd entertain a motion to recommend as amended.
Motion to recommend favorably as amended.
Second.
Motion has been properly made and seconded to recommend this order favorably as amended. All in favor? Anyone opposed? The order is recommended favorably as amended. Number 12.
Item 12, ordered that the City Council hereby declare 7 Commercial Street, Brockton Police Headquarters as surplus and available for disposition and sale to the most advantageous proposer after soliciting requests for proposals. And further, that the mayor be and is hereby is authorized to execute any and all documents necessary to dispose of said property. Amended at the original meeting to add to a tax-paying entity. Invited Mayor Robert Sullivan, City Solicitors Megan Bridges and/or designee, City CFO Dr. Troy Clarkson, Interim Director of Planning and Economic Development John Shea and/or designee, Chairman of Assessors John P. O'Donnell.
Mr. Chairman, good evening. Members of the committee, thank you very much. I can tell you that the next mayor will be dealing with the sale of 7 Commercial Street. What is before you tonight is a vote needed to deem it as surplus. As you know, it's still being utilized for the police department. 100% of the police will relocate by the end of this calendar year, by the holiday season. As I indicated before, the new public safety building with the ribbon cutting is operational. IT has already moved in. Chief Perez, because of the magnitude of the police department, is going to do it in phases. The last phase will be the evidence, because there's a ton of evidence in over there. What's before you is a vote to deem 7 Commercial surplus. If that is approved, then Mike Morris, in his capacity of Chief Procurement Officer, will be able to put out an RFP on the streets, which will then gauge interest of developers. We have already been told by potential developers that it's a ripe property. The fact is it abuts the train station, commuter rail. It's an old piece of property, so they would need to do their due diligence. That's the only thing that's before you tonight, a vote to deem it surplus, because it will be surplus once 100% of the police move into the new public safety building. And then Mr. Morris, in his capacity, can get out there to gauge interest. It will not happen, the sale will not happen before January 5th. It will happen way into that. So the new mayor will be dealing with that endeavor. But I think it would be appropriate to bring this before you under this legislative body so that it gives Mr. Morris time to hit the streets. We want to see exactly what the interest out there. I suspect that 21E testing for potential contaminants. It's an old building. There may potentially be asbestos. There may potentially be lead or oofy in there. We don't know. But because it is an old building and there's a lot of granite and cinder block, there's going to be a potential buyer. And I do know that this is a piece of property that will go on the tax roll and garner a substantial amount of money for the city of Brockton, just sheerly where it's located, right? Real estate is about location, 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 and many folks have already called my office and spoke to Mr. May before he retired. So that's only before you tonight for a surplus order, because it will be surplus by the end of this calendar year. But again, it will give Mike Morris time to hit the streets and just see what the interest is. That's all it is.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Madam Solicitor, anything to add, or?
No, thank you.
Okay. Council, let's open it up for questions. Councilors, any questions? Councilor Farwell.
Just to Mr. Mayor and the solicitor, other than establishing a value, what other options does the city council have from your viewpoint? And maybe we'll start with the solicitor. For example, future design of the building, future use of the building. What requirements could we put on that parcel as it goes out for an RFP? Who will write the actual RFP? And is there an RFP in draft form yet?
I can answer the first part of your question, and I think we had this conversation not that long ago, that 30B contemplates the legislative body has the authority to delineate any use restrictions attached to a surplus order. So that happens at this juncture. If there is any air quoting restrictive covenants, use restrictions, or lawful 30B restrictions that attach, then this would be the time for you all to contemplate that and make a decision on that.
All right, so a question to our legislative council: can we require a certain percentage of any dwellings or any buildings that are on that property to be a certain percentage commercial as opposed to any other use?
Yeah, so that would be a use restriction, because you're designating how the property is going to be used. But one counsel that I do have to give, because I think at one of the finance committee meetings that I wasn't at, there was amendment to make it say to a tax-paying entity, and 30B is clear that you cannot discriminate during this process on a prospective bidder's tax-paying status. So I do recommend striking that language, but the 30B language gives authority to the legislative body to establish use restrictions, which
All right, so I'll move.
would be commercial, retail for this purpose, but can't say tax-paying.
I'll move to strike the language which you indicated is not lawful.
The second?
Second.
Motion made to strike the language speaking to a tax-paying entity under this order. All in favor? Anyone opposed? The amendment passes.
Council Fowle, I just to answer your question. No, the RFP has not been drafted yet. I would encourage Mike Morris to work with Attorney Resnick and Attorney Bridges to incorporate what they believe. And again, Legislative Council will get the direction from all of you. The next mayor will be working with the solicitor to get it done as well. But really, you know, all of us have a vested interest that it's a taxpayer because it's a right piece of property. The RFP is going to be unique for this property because, again, there's very few pieces of property that directly abut a commuter rail. But it's not rocket science. You know, the RFP for the Lincoln School would be a good example, right, based upon the age of that building and the age of this building. There is an RFP on the streets right now for the Whitman School, the elementary school that I went to. There was already a surplus order under Mayor Carpenter. So my humble suggestion would be to have the two attorneys work with Mike Morris. But again, whatever the will of the council is, the only thing tonight is if the vote takes place and it's favorable and then next week it's confirmed, that just gives Mike the ability to work with the people to get the RFP on the street.
All right, well, Mr. Mayor, what I don't want is I don't want the council to lose the opportunity
of course.
to have input into the RFP. In my view, councilors, we should ensure that a great majority of that building or buildings that end up on that property should be mostly commercial use. And basically I'm trying to spur some discussion among all of us tonight so that we have input and we make it known exactly what we want done, and we don't just move this on to council and turn it over to Mr. Morris. Unfortunately, some of the things that I wanted done have the potential purchaser voluntarily pay taxes. I can't require that. I can't require a fund from any potential purchaser for mitigating pedestrian and traffic safety in that area, because obviously as it's developed, it's going to be, there's going to be a change right across the street from the BAT bus terminal. So I guess the last question for Legislative Council and the solicitor, can we require that a project development agreement be executed between the city and any potential developer so that we know precisely the timelines on the project, the scope of the project, design of the project? In other words, where can we go with that? And I'll defer to our two legal people.
Part of what you're getting at, I would suggest, is accomplishable. The first part of what you were just saying last, in terms of a pilot or things of that nature, are accomplishable in the negotiation of the disposition. Not by this body, but by the chief executive officer. Okay. So in terms of the conversation or making your wishes known about what you all want, this is still the time, you know, if you care to go on record about that. Secondarily, on the land disposition agreement, I'm unaware of any provision in the law that allows the city council to create that restriction. That is something that the city utilizes as part of its disposition or acquisition process. Is after the point in time when a most advantageous proposer is selected, there's an LDA negotiation, a land disposition agreement negotiation. You all probably remember hearing a lot about that during the soccer conversations and potentially the fairground conversations. Again, I'm unaware of your ability as the legislative body to force that on the executive, but that is generally the practice that the city uses.
Actually, I wish we had Mr. Morris here tonight, but I guess that will satisfy my questions for now. Maybe other people have some issues they'd like to raise.
Councilor Lally.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, so I know we can't specify intended uses in writing as part of this.
You can, you can. Let's make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
That is the point of this discussion, other than the declaration of surplus, is use restrictions. That's what the law allows by this part of the government.
I mean, we can't specify that they can't be a nonprofit or that they have to pay taxes.
You
You
can't
can
discriminate
specify
based
that-
off of their tax-paying status.
Right, that's what I meant, I apologize. But yeah, I think it's still helpful for the council to have the opportunity, like you said, this is our time to make that kind of statement, to say, hey, look, we want to make sure that, this massive property right in the middle of downtown, connected to a train station, to squander such an opportunity is too much. So we want to make sure that comes out to be ideally, businesses, commercial property that people can invest in, that, Jim Sweeney from the Planning Board and the Zoning Board said that it'd be a good idea maybe to see if they'll put a restaurant, right by the train station, something like that. Again, we can't, I'm not saying we specify that today, I'm just saying.
You can.
Right, I'm not
You just
saying
can't say
specifically, right.
a nonprofit restaurant.
Right.
I just
I'm
want to,
saying,
there is
yeah.
a qualifier in front of the
But,
use.
no, I'm just saying, we want business. And we obviously, just to ask, just to be clear, Mr. Mayor, there's nobody's, I imagine people have come forward, and I know, I believe you've said people have come forward to ask about the property. The city's had no serious conversation with anyone in particular.
No, I mean, we're still using the building. No, not at all, no.
So no buyer in mind?
No. And again, I think there's going to be prospective buyers that need to do some strong due diligence. Is that building, is that a renovation? Is that a tear down? What is it going to cost to do? But really, I want to maximize that geographic area so we can get the most for the citizens.
Yeah.
I mean, CSX was just acquired. I want everybody to know that. The CSX property was acquired. Charter bought it, the Registry of Deeds, it's on record. So they bought it from CSX Rail Yard. They're trying to buy additional parcels. But again, there's going to be a lot of people living in that area, and all the amenities have to be, as such.
Right. And a question for Legislative Council. Can we require, a certain number of councilors or a specific line of councilors to be on the bid committee?
No, not through a
No?
surplus order.
Okay, so, Mr. Mayor, I would ask you, and I would ask,
The next mayor.
ask
Yes.
the next mayor, and really ask Mike Morris, because he's the one that puts it together, to, I know that usually how it was done is that the ward councilor serves on that committee. I believe that that's important, that should remain. So that would be Councilor Thompson. But I think due to the significance of the property, they should look at including a councilor at large as well.
Yes, I support that.
Just to supplement that, without a question to, the ward's primacy. Also for Legislative Council, can we require tonight some kind of a clawback provision?
Yes.
Where if something isn't met at a certain date, we can take the property back, and that this matter come back before the council, before final sale, after the RFP, after, a winning bidder is awarded, before the sale goes through, the final vote is, it comes back to the council, which is what we did, several years ago with the soccer project.
Yeah, I want to look, I can get back to you. I want to look at the language that we did for Keith Field. I think
Yeah.
that was the one that we had Roberta language, so I can find that and send the recommended language that we used for that.
So we can put together two amendments, one for coming back before the council and one for a clawback for the property, and then offer them next week?
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'll find that language.
I don't just, through you, Mr. Chairman, I don't believe that it would go back to the council, because once the order is established and there's a bid committee and a bid is successfully accepted, there's a closing. I mean,
Mr. Mayor, you were on the council when we did that with the soccer project. So that was specified advice that I actually got from one of my predecessors, Councilor Daley. And that was specified. So we did require that as a council, and then it came back, I don't remember the year off the top of my head, but we did, before the, agreement was signed, it did go to, it did go back to the council for one final vote.
Okay, I don't remember that, but if you say it happened, it happened.
You can sunset certainly a surplus order. My memory on the soccer field was that any substantial deviation from the plan that was selected had to be brought back to you all, but not that you technically approved the award of the RFP.
I believe it was approval of the award because at that time there was not a substantive change to the project. But that was, you might not have been on the council at that time. It might have been 2020. You had a lot going on.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Yeah.
I was dealing with COVID, man.
Yeah, a lot going on. But that's what I would very much recommend, and that ends my my list of questions. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Councilor. Councilor Azak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just have a couple of additions to what some of my colleagues have brought up. Since I've been on the council, I brought up a number of times the issue when we have buildings that are being bought, but then nothing gets done for years, and then they fall apart. It doesn't help the city. And I had spoken to city planner Rob May at the time, said, what can we do? Is there anything we can do that, say, when these buildings are being purchased, that the developer has to do something by a specific time? I mean, otherwise, we have buildings that are sitting empty for, what, 10? I had one up on Pleasant Street that took 12 years to finally get developed. It's finally, and it looks beautiful, and it makes a huge difference to the area. So is there anything that we can do to protect the city?
I mean, I can give you an example, Council. Hotel Grayson on Frederick Douglass was acquired before I became mayor, and it still hasn't been developed. NeighborWorks Housing Solution has done a lot in Brockton. They're a great developer. But I asked them if they could beautify that, and that's why they did the mural of the Frederick Douglass on the building itself. But they're waiting for two different things. They were waiting for stack funding so that they're going to do the Harbor One building, which they own. They bought the building on Legion Parkway with the Hotel Grayson. So that will happen soon, but the only thing, the control that I had as mayor is to meet on a regular basis with Rob Corley, the CEO. And again, they did a lot, right? They did 121 Main, they're doing Lynch right now, they've done a lot, but the only thing I could have them do is secure the building because they owned it and then try to beautify it for the residents.
Okay.
I couldn't force them to borrow money to start the construction, and there was just a lot of factors. A lot of these developers are buying old buildings. Police Station 7 commercials in old buildings, so they would look for historic tax credits. The way that the Commonwealth works with Baker and also Healy is it's only twice a year. So if they don't get in the first round, they apply for the second round, and that takes another 6 months. So there's some variables in there.
Okay, so there isn't anything that we could state or do that would give it time?
I'm certainly open to the conversation or ideas. In my experience, the way this has played out is through negotiations. And you have the developer on one side and then the municipality on the other, and the developer is saying, my financing package won't work with these timelines you're putting on me for developing. Or if I can't meet this timeline, the triggering event for the default or whatever is too onerous for me to get funding on. I mean, I've heard that in plenty of times. So we absolutely try, because personally, I don't think it's fair for folks to not know what to expect. However, the tension is then created with what's feasible and practical for that developer. And so, yeah.
So the other part of my comment, question is, we're taking out to a tax-paying entity. So what can we put in there? Can we, I'd like to do that this evening since it's before us. Can we add in commercial space, restaurant? We can list all of that this evening, so it doesn't have to.
It's currently zoned I-2, and so that is what the value is based on is what permissible uses can occur there without zoning relief. A commercial use is inappropriate utilization of the 30B restrictions granted to the legislative body.
Okay.
And I can't make a recommendation on what that looks like because I'm not your planner, but that is a use restriction.
I2 is the use, okay. So that's all we would need in there, so if it's going to be purchased and anything else, they'd have to come before zoning, correct?
So maybe I'll make one suggestion, that Councilor Lally has asked Legislative Council to draft a couple of amendments.
Okay.
And so I have a couple words that are coming to mind, but it would be better if either her or I could draft something and you could look at it and see if it
That would
meets
be
what you
great,
want.
that's what I'm asking for.
Happy to do that.
Before the final vote next week, yeah, absolutely.
That's perfect, and
Yep.
that's exactly what I'm asking for, so I appreciate that. Thank you, because I know there is a lot of interest in this by different developers that have already developed in the city. I know they've approached me, and so I just hoping it's the best project for Brockton, not necessarily just through the developer. So we want what's best for Brockton. So I appreciate it. Thank you, and I look forward to getting that information. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Council.
you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor.
Councilor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Solicitor. So this property is kind of like, unlike any other property we've developed in the city over the last term that I've been in office. In the case that it's currently occupied, we really haven't done any environmental studies. We haven't really got into the bones of the building. And usually that's what we do. We can point to numerous buildings throughout the city, the Corcoran Building, you brought up the Hotel Grayson, and a plethora of other buildings in the city where they're unoccupied. They've been unoccupied for a while. We get in there, we look around, we have the building inspector kind of do, the building commissioner do his inspection. If he identifies problems, we're seeking grants, maybe there's remediation issues, where we have a really, and then we have the planner sit down with the council or with his department and start really planning out what's feasible in that location. We really haven't done that with this building, and I think that's ultimately a step we're going to have to take prior to any RFP to understand what's the condition of the building, what can be done with the building, and then our control as the city is through zoning. As you said, Madam Solicitor, is currently zoned I2. I'm sure there's very little to no use on that property for an I2 use. Maybe there is, I don't know, some light manufacturing of some sort, but right now it's kind of hard to anticipate what would be the best, highest use of that building without really understanding its conditions. There's been talk of a full tear down and have somebody build from scratch. That'd be wonderful, but is that possible? Or is if there is, as you stated, contamination, is it cost prohibitive to tear it down? And then, this is kind of like a building unlike a lot of other buildings in our city where it's concrete bricks, right? It's this, this, what are they called? Cinder blocks. It's a cinder block building. I don't think we have any other really cinder block buildings in the city. And so what can be done to a cinder block building? I don't know. I'm sure my fellow councilors don't really know. And so I think we should be taking this step by step. And I think the step before us is a proper step, is to declare it surplus. If there's going to be some reverter clauses that we want to work into it, if it doesn't ultimately meet our ultimate goal of best use or not done within a certain time frame, definitely put that language together so we can review it. But right now, I believe the step before us is to declare it surplus, check that 30B box, start putting it out there for developers to maybe get some feedback to us. And then I think we, with our new planner, you know, after people have looked at it, after we have a better understanding of what we can do with it, get the planner department to start kind of drawing up some ideas, and then we can revisit this matter through a zoning change so that whatever use is done, it's done within, you know, accordance of our zoning laws, and that's kind of really how we as a city can control this property, is by zoning it. And then, you know, from there, we put it out to a bid that would get the highest, best price for the building, because it's now properly zoned. We have some understanding of what type of use we want in it, and then we can take a look at development agreements and other stuff to kind of further, you know, further enhance the plan that the city wants for it. But I think right now, the matter before us is declare it surplus. I think it's proper to do so. We'd be looking forward to some of the language that you'll be providing. We'll make sure that everybody has an opportunity to review that language prior to the final vote. But my ask for the City Council would be to recommend this matter favorably, get it to City Council, review that language, and then ultimately grant this order so that we can get the process of reviewing this building underway.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Rodriguez, followed by Councilor Duran-Accord.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Solicitor, just a quick question for you. Did we actually do a title search on that piece of property to know exactly where the boundaries of the property lies? Because, and the reason why I'm asking this is because I know for a fact that the MBTA clears the snow and some of the other things around that building. So I just want to make sure that we're not here kind of deciding on a piece of property that, you know, technically we have no idea where the boundaries are. So if we are sold a piece of property to a developer, that we might run the risk of having the T come down and do the same thing that they're doing to the Jeffrey property on the back side of it. So
That's so sad. I had a title exam, yes. It's dated August 1st, 2025. There was a small issue noted, but it really doesn't have anything to do with the MBTA. There are clear mets and bounds and no encumbrances.
So if somebody was to buy that piece of property, will they have some issues with the MBTA because they would have to grant some sort of an easement to the MBTA to get back and forth onto that property, since it's no longer a city property, it would be a private property?
Okay. Let's see. So the city doesn't own the train station.
Right, but we owe the alleyway that goes into the train station.
The stairs?
The ramp.
Yep.
Yes.
I used to check the train station from there all the time. So right now, that's more of a question. I see what you're saying in terms of I have a title exam. The title exam provides any restrictive covenants that are attached to the land, of which there were none of significance noted. Happy to provide anybody who wants it a copy of the title exam. It's all public record regardless, because it only comes from the registry. But back to a pragmatic answer to your question, the DPW generally interfaces with MBTA over these topics. And I don't know if they have an MOA or an understanding. So I think the answer to your question is there would need to be some conversation, both with the purchaser on behalf of the municipality with the MBTA.
But the reason why I'm asking this is because let's say we declare this a surplus,
Right.
and Joe, developer, shows up tomorrow and decides to purchase that piece of property.
Right.
Now, are we not putting these individuals in a pickle in the sense, because now all of a sudden they have to go deal with the MBTA, and we know how rough that has been for some of the developers around this area. Wouldn't it make sense for us to clarify that before we sell the piece of property so that we know exactly what we're selling?
Well, we have a title exam that identifies for us exactly what we're selling, with any deed restrictions attached to it. In land acquisition deals, number one, a P&S wouldn't attach, a purchase and sale agreement would not attach here because this is not a private land deal. And so the developer holds the obligation to do their own due diligence. The city has to convey clear and marketable title, which is what the insurance is and that a title exam provides. So if the city can't provide clear and marketable title, then sure, it would need to clean up a cloud, if you will. But that is separate and apart from the relationship with the MBTA in terms of who manages the snow removal and who manages the stairway.
No, the reason why I brought up the snow removal, I'm saying they do the snow removal.
I
So
understand.
which means that they feel that the land is theirs
I'm not
for the cleaning of the snow.
That's another conversation, which I'm happy to go down that road, but I would need Pat here. We would need Pat here, because we have had this conversation with the MBTA a few times. People slip and fall down there. Who do they sue? They sue the MBTA. But that's what a title exam is it provides the clear lines of whose is whose and what's what, and what encumbrances are there. So I do hear what you're saying, and that just comes in communication. That just comes in communication. That's theirs, this is ours. We're not sharing it, but there is access the MBTA clears it. You're absolutely right.
Yep.
They clear it. But whether they own it or not, that would clearly be communicated to the developer.
Council, one thing you mentioned, so the property's on Montello Street, the old Avon Auto Body, D'Angelo's, what Joffrey bought, and Dunkin' Donuts. They're a little unique compared to what we're talking about because they actually have the party wall behind them, and that's an issue with the MBTA. We don't have that at 7 Commercial Street. The only thing that we would have is making sure that any prospective buyer gets clear marketable title and that they have an understanding that there is the right of pedestrian walking on that property to get to the train tracks, and certain pieces of that property fall outside of this meets and bounds because that is MBTA property. But again, what's before us tonight, and it would actually be your endeavor to deal with Mayor-elect, but what it will be is that the property be sold as is, whereas, that's what the city always sells, right? Lincoln School, Grayson, everything is sold as is, but the folks would need to do their own due diligence for not just what was discussed tonight with potential contaminants or 21E, but also making sure that there is an agreement in place with the MBTA if it's needed. We don't have one. The city of Brockton does not have one. It would be on record at the Registry of Deeds or Land Court. And Attorney Sean McCall, who is both a Land Court examiner and a title examiner, and he's done it 30-plus years, did the exam, so it's very thorough.
Well, I don't have that in front of me right now. What's the assessed value of that piece of property, do you know?
I wasn't involved in the appraisal or the assessment, just the title exam.
No, I'm just saying, I see Mr. O'Donnell there. Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, could I just ask that for...
Any objections?
No, he's an invited guest.
Invited guest.
Oh, he's invited guest. Yeah, fair enough.
Oh, he's an invited guest? Okay.
Yes. I don't have the assessed value, I can send you that, but we had it appraised by Sean Fitzgerald, and it appraised for $4.15 million. And he's pretty adamant. He said the building will be torn down. That building cannot be saved.
Right.
Like they'd put buildings away from the tracks, because the MBTA has access. That's why I think they might plow. They have access easements going all the way around the police station. So, but he
So
said,
whoever was to pick up this piece of property has to tear that building down and build it from scratch?
he would say, yeah, that's his opinion. I mean, he's been an appraiser for 40 years.
And somebody would buy that for $4 million?
The land, it's all land value. I think you guys would provide a copy of the appraisal.
Yeah, I saw it, but I didn't, I just,
It's basically land value.
$4 million?
$4 million. It's unique. It's on the tracks. Can't find another property like it in the state.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Interested, Counselor?
Chairman?
No, I'm just wondering.
Chairman,
You,
point of information, 2.178 million is the, 2.178230 is the assessed value.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you.
Counselor Drenacourt.
Yeah, excellent. Mr. Mayor, I just would like to, commend you and say thank you for actually, moving this with jet speed and get it done.
Thank you,
And
Council.
obviously, oftentimes, we go at each other, but, usually when you see something positive, it's important to acknowledge it.
Thank you. Thank
And
you,
I
sir.
think this is one of the unique, opportunity to do that, given the fact that, I know how hard it is, to do all of this. But here's what I would say. This is a unique opportunity in regard to the location and the possibility of what that space might become. And if I am, an investor and who's looking at this, the last I want to hear is what they're going to tell me to do, as opposed to what I believe can fit in regard to benefiting, if not moving forward, the city. And why am I saying this? I'm saying this because obviously this is a public meeting and people will review that. And the last thing that we want to do is, pushing people away in regard to, some of our conversation and what we want to do and what should be there and what shouldn't be there. And in my view, and I believe in your view, this is not what we are trying to do here. We are trying to bring business to the city of Brockton, whereby people can pay taxes and our resident can feel somewhat relief, not being killed with a lot of taxes. And if I am somebody who's willing to put that much money into it, obviously it will be in the interest of whomever in the city to come up with a plan. But the last thing I want to hear is you have to do X, Y, and Z. And I've seen it before, a lot of desire, if not willingness, to come forward. But as we know, oftentimes people have to borrow money. And you said that when it's come down to state money, it's not like every single day. And as our downtown is somewhat, suffering in regard to the business world, I want anybody who may have a desire to come to Brockton to know that we will do whatever it takes to help you out in regard to giving you location, getting you the permits, and making sure that you're moving forward. And I believe in regard to your legacy, this would be something that you can look back and be proud of. And you said it, Mr. Assessor, this is a unique piece of land in Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The location is golden. You can literally walk from whatever they build there, get on the train. And not just that train, we get Montello and Campello. And I am saying this because we've been talking all night in terms of this is what we may want, this is how it's supposed to be done. I don't want to be part of that. What I would like to say is that whomever has a desire to come to Brockton, the city of Brockton will open its arms to welcome you. And whatever you choose to do there, hopefully it will be in the interest of our resident, giving the historical of what has been there in regard to the Brockton Police Department. And I just don't want to be part of the conversation whereby someone may assume that it's going to be an uphill battle. And we do have a history of doing that. And I don't think this is something that you are looking for. So to end this, I would urge my colleague, to send a welcome message in terms of this place is for sale, buy it. Hopefully we get the most out of it and all of us can be happy. But the last we should do is thinking about, we have to come up with language in terms of what should be there or what we would like to be there. But it's also in the interest of that businessman or businesswoman or companies to determine how best they believe they will be able to get their money back. Because nobody is going to come to Brockton to make an investment just because. That's not going to happen. I'm not a business guy, but it doesn't work like that. So as you are about to leave, and I know how proud you are of.
This is actually my last night to appear before the city council, so this
Excellent.
will be
What a way to end this.
I guess so,
especially you and I.
File a couple results.
So I just want to publicly, thank you for doing this.
Thank you, council.
And hopefully this will carry somewhat of your legacy, and people will understand this was done under your administration. And like you stated, your last meeting in front of this council. So to my colleague, I'm not beating a dead horse, but I just want to be somewhat that positive voice to anybody who probably will have an opportunity to watch this meeting, to knowing that this is not a beating you down moment, but this is to making sure that whatever we do, it will be something that we all can be proud of, the city of Brockton and the investors. So with that being said, I would leave it there, and good luck.
Thank you, councilor.
And I'll see you on the street.
I'll see you. Thank you.
Got it.
Thank you, Counselor. Councilor Castro.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Council.
And a fine evening it is. Well, the first thing I wanted to say, addressing my colleagues' comments, is that it will be sold as is, in my experience. And it's not unusual for properties to be sold adjacent to train stations. I think of Ashmont Station. And actually, one of the developers adjacent to Ashmont Station is Jim Keith from Trinity Financial, who has another property in the city. Also, South Station, lots of different properties in there. They all get cross easements, and lawyers get paid a lot of money to figure it all out, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, speak for the lawyers, you see?
Yeah, absolutely. But what I'm saying is, it would be satisfactorily sorted out. I'm greatly feeling the absence of a planner in this discussion this evening, and that's really a shame, because that would be where I would go next in my comments. What does the planner think? So I would like the opportunity to speak to our remaining planner and get some thoughts on it, because it's valuable.
Sure, and I can tell you, because he mentioned to me many times, and I know he mentioned it before all of you, Rob May was a big proponent of this property.
Yes.
And he indicated to me and our state delegation partners that this would be a very, very ripe and desirable piece of property. But I'm happy to, between now and next Monday, have Evan from the planning office reach out to any council that has any questions. I think that's legitimate. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
In addition, I was very happy to have an appraisal before having to make this decision. Sean Fitzgerald does good work, in my experience, and he gave very good perspective on it. His suggestion is that the highest and best use is for 3 buildings of residential. But I respectfully disagree.
Mixed use.
Yes, some mixed use, but primarily residential. We're putting residential everywhere. We can't single-handedly house all of southeastern Massachusetts. We just can't. We must. I'm desperate to add more commercial property to better balance out our tax base. And so if somebody's asking for my wish list, it would be 30% residential and the balance to be commercial property, because we just cannot sustain this, where we continue to add all these units of residential housing. We haven't added a new supermarket. We haven't added a new pharmacy. We haven't added all kinds of commercial space for essential services that people need. And as a result, they're all going to need cars. We don't have the capacity in the downtown for more cars. So I really see that as very, very important.
Council, I just want to say, I mean, I'm not a developer, but if you look at the Charles Street Jail in Boston, which is now a hotel, and the basement is one of the biggest hot spots and nightclubs in the city of Boston right now, and they utilize the jail cells. I was just there recently at a different event, and so it may or may not be a tear down. If you have the right people with the right money and the right vision, you know, that building might be renovated and reimagined. I don't know, but I concur with you. I mean, housing is great. We need to have people live in high-quality housing, but and I've said this since I became mayor, we need amenities that go along with that. We need the restaurants. We need the dry cleaners. We need the coffee shops. You know, we need a lot of different amenities, and with the amount of people projected to live at CSX, I can't see how there isn't developers in the commercial mixed-use aspect that are not going to jump in this area. I can't imagine that they wouldn't.
I agree with you, but it's easier to get financing on residential housing.
It is.
It is, and that's what we have to resist. We're not desperate.
No.
Certainly, we're not desperate for more housing. So those are my comments. That's my wish list.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Are there any counselors who have not talked who would like to talk? Seeing none, going to the second round, Counselor Farwell.
No, I just wanted to apologize. My eyesight on the font on this phone is off. 3.64 million is the assessment.
Even better. Thank you, Councilor.
This 2-point font on an iPhone just doesn't cut it. No.
Thank
so
you.
3.64 million is the assessed value.
What are he
Fair enough. Thank you. Counselors, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to recommend favorable.
Motion's been properly made. Do I have a second?
Second for discussion purposes or for voting purposes.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. All in favor? All opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you, Councilors. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Item 13, be it resolved by the Brockton City Council to invite Orlando Spinola and his team with Walk, Massachusetts, could be NAP, Massachusetts at this point, to appear before the Finance Committee to discuss the Brockton Walk Audit Series and to provide an update on the findings and recommended actions for supporting safer, more walkable and equitable streets in the city of Brockton. Invited Orlando Spinola, Senior Project Manager, Walk, Massachusetts, Brendan Carney, Executive Director, Walk, Massachusetts.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for coming before us. Floor is yours.
Great, thanks so much. I can start as that gets going.
Great.
So, my name is Brendan Carney, Executive Director here at Walk, Massachusetts. I'll give a brief overview of this project and then set the big picture, the reason for this effort. Then Yolanda will share a snapshot of each of the walk audits that happened, what we found and heard from residents. And we can also email any of the walk audit reports to the council afterwards if interested. And then we'll both just close out with some short and long-term recommendations and then open up to any questions.
Thank you. Councilor Downcourt.
Can you see it on your screens?
No.
Okay.
Councilors, we're going to take a brief recess while we get the presentation uploaded.
The battery's low.
Brief recess. need one more.
So,
Oh, yeah, we got.
Keep it here
You're
for
in
ourselves.
chambers, that's fine.
Microphones are on, councilors.
All right, we're back from recess. All right, gentlemen, so it looks like we're going to have to move forward without your presentation. But we've all, the city councilors have been emailed your presentation, so we are familiar with it. Floor is yours, gentlemen.
Great, thanks so much. So yeah, we'll give a brief overview of the Brockton walk audits that happened this year in 4 neighborhoods: Montello, Campello, West Side, and East Side. I'll give just kind of the level setting of how Brockton sits compared to other cities and towns across Massachusetts. Yolanda will cover kind of high-level view of those 4 walk audits. Once again, we can send the full report to anyone that is interested, and then we'll give some of the recommendations and answer any questions that you may have. So Walk Massachusetts is a statewide nonprofit working to make walking safer and easier in Massachusetts, to encourage better health, cleaner environment, and more vibrant communities. We were founded in 1990 as Walk Boston, but we changed our name a couple years ago because we've been doing work in places like Brockton and other places all across the state. These walk audits that took place this year were conducted in partnership with the Old Colony Planning Council, and we received a grant from the Massachusetts Office of Grant and Research Underserved Traffic Community Safety Grant, and we're also excited to announce tonight that that got renewed and extended into 2026. So we will be doing additional walk audits here in Brockton, so we would definitely appreciate your ideas of places that we should be leading these additional walk audits. So. And the short-term goal of these walk audits was to gather community input to shape actionable, equity-centered recommendations, and a longer-term goal is to improve road safety, accessibility, and comfort for pedestrians in Brockton neighborhoods. You can't see this graphic right now, but it is a picture of across all of Massachusetts showing where fatal crashes have happened over the last 5 years. This is actually 2021 through 2024. Basically 2 out of every 3 of those fatal crashes happened in environmental justice census block groups, of which Brockton is one. This definitely shows that there is more of a need to invest in places where there has been a lack of attention for people outside of vehicles. So we're really hopeful that some of the funding streams that are available at the state level can help Brockton do more of what you guys are already thinking about and starting to do. The statewide context is in 2024, there were 78 fatal pedestrian crashes in places all across the state. That made up 21% of all the fatal traffic crashes. And this is not just a big city thing. This is happening all over the place. 53 of the 351 cities and towns had at least 1 pedestrian fatality, and 9 of the 53 communities had multiple pedestrian crash deaths, of which Brockton was one of them. 9 communities had more than 1. Boston had 12, Brockton and Springfield each had 4, Fall River and Worcester each had 3, Bedford, Holyoke, Revere, and Yarmouth each had 2. Boston, Springfield, and Brockton are the only communities to have at least 3 pedestrian crashes. Each year we release this report over the last 4 years. One piece to note is that road rage crashes are not included in this data set that comes from MassDOT. So the person that was hit and killed, intentionally struck by a SUV in April of last year, since that driver was charged with murder, that is not included in MassDOT's data set on traffic fatalities on the roadways because it's a homicide. Which still means that our streets are dangerous and we need to make it so people can't drive recklessly. And how do we do more to prevent that? A big thing is slowing dangerous drivers down. If they're going slower, if they are still in a crash, that means the outcomes for people outside the vehicle or in another vehicle are much improved. The fatality and serious risk injury goes down. It also makes it so the person driving has better reaction time. Like they are able to see changing conditions on the street, whether there are kids trying to cross a crosswalk or near a school, it just gives them more time to react. I'll turn it over to Yolanda now to kind of dig into what the walk audits are.
Yeah, I think one thing to keep in mind is that we've seen a good number of fatalities on our road, like Brendan mentioned, and Today in Brockton was World Day of Remembrance, and it's also on Sunday was World Day of Remembrance for people who have dealt with traffic fatalities. So that's just something to keep in mind as we talk about these walk audits. There's real lives, real people who are being impacted, and the whole idea of a walk audit is we're trying to get out there into the community to try to find what are the right interventions, what are the right ways that we as a community can come together to make the changes that we need in order to make our streets safer for everybody, using our roads in a variety of different modes. So the main purpose of a walk audit is to go out there as a community, make observations about the sidewalks, the crosswalks, all the amenities that exist, collect those insights, and then try to wrestle with them together. So, many times it's about making trade-offs. So community members, decision makers are out there together saying, how can we make this work? How can we make our streets safer? And then once we wrestle with those things, we try to brainstorm what are the right recommendations that we can have in a report that we can share with our decision makers, that we can share with the right departments and agencies to try to make our streets safer for everybody. And then we try to utilize these artifacts, these reports, and all these insights and the engagement to try to actually change the built environment. Just having something sit on the shelf is not useful for anybody, and that's not what we want to see with our reports. We want to see them actually out there and change the conditions. This is not the first these 4 walk audits are not the first walk audits that actually have happened in Brockton. There's been a series of other walk audits prior to me being at the agency and that I've conducted in the year prior to these 4. So we've conducted a walk audit at the DW Fields Park with Wildlands Trust, and they brought their green teams together, and we got to walk around that area to see what are some improvements that could be made. There's been walk audits in the downtown Brockton area and some closer to Legion Parkway. So there have been walk audits that have resulted in great recommendations, and they're on the city's website, and they're a tool for all residents to use when it comes to thinking about how we can make our roads safer. So the 4 walk audits we conducted were Montello on May 21st and Campello on June 26th, the west side on July 23rd, and the east side on August 14th of 2025. Brockton has many things go in the right direction when it comes to the walking conditions and just the built environment. And many of the residents on our walk audits elevated these things, and they're things that we also just picked up on when we do site visits, and also I'm a member of the community, so I'm really aware of these things too. So we have a high amount of demand for a walkable, safe community. There's a lot of people in Brockton who want this and are demanding this of the city. You hear about the challenges on the news or maybe on social media. You see the crashes, and those are people's lives, and you see the frustration that people have, maybe in conversations, maybe they're calling your offices. So there's a demand for safer and more walkable places. Our city also has great infrastructure when it comes to just history. So there's a lot of history around us, and that's all things that we can utilize to connect people to the built environment and give people pride as they walk around. Our city also has a lot of multimodal modes of transportation, so we have a great public transportation system. All these are things that can be utilized to help connect people to different things around them. There's a lot of destinations and facilities that people can use, great density, so people don't have to walk too far to get to different things or to get to neighbors. And we're growing, so there's also an opportunity for us to invest in transportation to support this growth and that can support economic change in Brockton. So these are all things that are going that are working for us, that are working towards us, moving in the right direction. But there are some common challenges that we picked up and that residents elevated during our walk audits. You probably know of these very intimately. Speeding is definitely a big problem on our roads. Unfortunately, people are driving above the speed limit. Sometimes they're driving recklessly in our neighborhoods. We've also heard that there's an issue with lack of pedestrian signals, or the pedestrian signals are not working appropriately. or they're not accommodating of people of all different type of abilities, like older adults or people who are using a mobility device. They're just not timed right, or they're just not working. Lack of shading. So Brockton, we do have some tree coverage in different parts of the city, but downtown or in certain key neighborhoods, there are some areas where there's a huge problem with the heat island effect, where there's a lot of asphalt, and it's really making it difficult for our residents to move around on foot, and they don't have the proper shading that they need. And as climate change continues to become worse, this is going to continue to be a problem for our residents who are trying to move around, specifically older adults who really need the shading that they deserve. And then waste management. Our sidewalks sometimes could be properly cleaned up and just safer for people to walk around. When we don't have the right waste management system in place, it's a tripping hazard for many people who are trying to move around, overgrown vegetation. And then the one piece that I think is important to elevate is lack of disability infrastructure. Like either it's not maintained properly or it's not updated where it should be. We conducted a walk audit in Montello, and we were so happy to see that there was recent a new pavement that was put down specifically on Montello and Wilmington Street. Unfortunately, though, there was some missed opportunities. We saw that the new asphalt was great. There was a new crosswalk painted and stuff, but some of the different ADA accommodations were not properly installed. They weren't facing in the right direction, and actually the way that they were installed would put some people who have ADA needs in danger, because they would be approaching the streets in the wrong way.
Basically, if you're visually impaired, it would send you out right into the middle of the intersection instead of actually directed you across the crosswalk.
So this is an opportunity for us to work with our engineers to make sure that they have what they need in order to properly install these. There's also opportunities for us to improve the ADA audible compliance crossings in Montello. That was something that a lot of the participants elevated on that walk audit. The MBTA station, there are wayfinding signages there, but they could be a bit more visible to different users and more integrated into the neighborhood. And then the tree coverage in the area was also something that folks elevated. When we conducted our walk audit in the Campello neighborhood, the conditions of the sidewalks were something to be desired. There's a lot of challenges with tripping hazards and sidewalks that are just falling apart, that just need additional investments. Main Street and Nilsson Street is a really challenging area for many road users, so definitely pedestrians who are crossing, but vehicles are having a hard time in that area knowing how to navigate, or just like dealing with a lot of tensions on the roadway, making people really frustrated, making people make bad decisions. And this impacts all road users. A few days after our walk audit, there was actually a crash right in that location, and there was a vehicle right on the sidewalk. So yeah, and we also noticed that there was also an opportunity to add more benches in the neighborhood, more waste management, trash bins, because we're starting to see the impacts of not having these things impact walkers and the amenities that they need in order to move around. So when walkers don't have the amenities, they just are less likely to choose walking in their own neighborhood. So yeah, we saw the waste right on the sidewalk instead of in waste bins where they belong. And in places like Vicente Supermarket, there's a bus stop there, and that's a great opportunity to see how we can improve people's access to this supermarket with a bus shelter or some type of benches for people who are waiting for the bus that are utilizing this specific place. We also noticed that in the west side, there was actually great places where there's good tree coverage, so almost like respites for walkers moving around on the west side.
This was definitely the hottest walk audit, so those trees made such a difference, because this was done midday in July, so you might imagine how hot that could have been.
Yeah, and we appreciated that, and the sidewalks are nice and wide and well maintained in certain spots, But some challenges that do exist on the west side is there were long stretches with no crosswalks, pretty close to West Middle School, and this is an area where students will be commuting to school, so it would be nice if there were crosswalks more readily available, especially getting closer to the school. There's also a few different bat stops there with not any amenities like a bench or some type of coverage for people to escape from the elements. And then just ADA compliance was something that came up in that neighborhood too. In the east side, this was a walk audit that actually elevated a lot of age-friendly challenges. We were able to walk to I'm trying to remember the name of this specific.
Caffrey Towers.
The Caffrey Towers.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, for somebody who's maybe older or has ADA challenges, it's really hard for them to move around this neighborhood just because there's not proper sidewalks in certain areas, or the sidewalks that do exist are falling apart. There was a lot of obstructions in the way in regards to vegetation, in regards to the type of pavement that does exist in the neighborhood. So there was areas where there was mulch, and then there was other areas where it just transitions immediately to asphalt. That was not adequate. Another challenge is that there was no curb cuts in certain areas where pedestrians, specifically if you are on a wheelchair or you were trying to navigate with a disability, it would have been challenged for you because you don't have that curb cut in order to have that landing on a sidewalk. So yeah, we noticed a lot of these challenges, and we have recommendations in the reports on how to address these things, but we know that one thing that will come up is funding, right? How do we fund these things in order to see the changes that we need in Brockton? MassDOT does provide a significant amount of funding in regards to the Chapter 90 funding, and Brockton is already thinking about how to best utilize that, and a lot of that just goes to paving our roads. But there's also other programs like the Chapter, there's also the Complete Streets program, the Shared Streets program. There's opportunities through MassDOT to utilize some funding for just planning. They have just planning grants now available for towns and cities. Brockton was awarded Complete Streets funding in 2024, which is actually our first year of receiving that funding through MassDOT, and it's obviously being used right now near the new police in the new public safety building area near Warren Ave. So that funding is great that we landed it, but we have an opportunity to apply for it in future years. And we've been a complete street community now like since 2018, and you all actually passed the ordinance in order for us to become a complete streets community, because that's a requirement that's necessary. And what I would strongly encourage you all to do is see how we can continue to utilize complete streets strategies as a city, even outside of the MassDOT system. Because if we are utilizing that, we're making it better for all our residents, and we're making it safer for folks. The Shared Streets program is also something we've landed before. Specifically, BAT's been doing a great job going after that funding, and I would encourage the city to also look into that.
Yeah, and the state has tried to simplify the grant process where it's like a one-stop where you log in and they show you everything that you were actually qualified for. It used to be you would have to go in this one place to look for the one source of funding, this other place to see if you qualify for it. So they're really trying to simplify it and make it better for municipalities to actually show these are the different buckets of money that you can be pulling from, which is really exciting. You know, we do have some short-term and long-term recommendations here. You know, kind of the big idea, I think a planner came up multiple times tonight, and the lack of a planner. We definitely think that Brockton needs a transportation planner, someone who's owning that piece of it, to think more comprehensively and strategically around planning, implementation, grant funding, infrastructure development, and how any new buildings that are coming online, how will that also impact the streets? And think about how we're really balancing the needs of all the users, people who have been here for years or people who are moving here new. You know, also another idea is to add residents and non-city representatives to the Traffic Commission in order for the Traffic Commission to be able to really be thinking about local transportation needs and have a bunch of different voices there. And also thinking about how to improve public participation in traffic commission meetings, having that be the place that people can go to. You know, the other piece on funding, thinking strategically on how best to use the state's TIP funding to improve pedestrian needs. And also, you know, thinking about, Yolanda talked a little bit about, you know, trash, like maybe thinking about public-private partnerships to improve pedestrian needs. You know, whether that's waste bins near local businesses who are going to empty them, or working with developers to add pedestrian amenities, and think about those people who are going to be clearing snow or cleaning up trash. So, you know, some of the short-term recommendations and opportunities here, you know, these are more like maybe a quicker win item that can impact daily life. And, you know, whether we're thinking about directing the DPW to create a safe crossings initiative, you know, thinking about using some of these walk audit reports and future walk audits to prioritize repainting and upgrading crosswalks in some of the most needed locations in Campello, Montella, and the east side, repainting and upgrading crosswalks at key locations in all neighborhoods, you know, thinking about near schools or near access to parks or transit or bus stops, and also thinking about standardizing and upgrading what a crosswalk looks like in Brockton. It seems to be some of them just have 2 single stripes, other ones have more the ladder design. If you have a standard, MassDOT, when they are repainting something, they will repaint it to your standard. So we would encourage you to have the standard be the ladder or, you know, the zebra style. They're more visible, and as paint wears out, there's more paint out there. So, you know, MassDOT will repaint to your standard on their roadways. It's something they don't talk about often, but they will. They'd be happy to just go in with the 2 stripes. It's a lot quicker. We encourage you to, you know, repair broken sidewalks, add temporary curb ramps and tactile warnings, thinking about improving lighting, installing benches, clearing vegetation and debris, enforcing speeding, reckless driving, and parking violations. We saw it a lot on the walk audits, but parking on sidewalks has become more of a norm in many neighborhoods. Another idea is to add a roads and sidewalk category to see, click, fix, so people can be reporting those issues as they see them to improve responsiveness and data collection on these issues. And then also task the appropriate departments and partners with a coordinated plan to address some of these common challenges of clearing overgrown vegetation, improving waste management, and, you know, working with BAT to install benches and shelters. Do you want to talk through some of the longer term recommendations?
So these are bigger pieces, bigger picture pieces that you all will have to think about. But definitely, like, ADA is a huge issue, I think, to try to address in the city, and there's definitely going to be a piece of trying to find the funding for that. But definitely, like, we need to come up with a plan, and I think, like, it goes back to that transportation planner, and this could be something that's their responsibility. We need to have, like, a plan in place to see how we can make our city more ADA compliant for all people to use our sidewalks and to be able to move around our roadways.
Because there's a lot of competing priorities, right? It's trade-offs. Like, you know, how do we prioritize if we have a limited budget for transportation sidewalk improvements? How do we prioritize what gets fixed and what gets improved? So yeah, it comes back to, like, coming up with a plan instead of just the squeaky wheel. Walk audits sometimes are squeaky wheel, but they can be the, you know, the basis of a plan to start thinking about priorities and what can be moved going forward.
Another item that it could be on this transportation planner's job, responsibility, is just coming up with a traffic calming strategy. Like, what is Brockton's traffic calming methodology? Like, how are we going about addressing some of these different things? What's in our toolbox? And what can we use that's in our toolbox? Like curb extensions, are we able to use rapid flashing beacons? How are they being deployed? Is it just people, you know, coming up to you all and demanding them, asking them, or is it connecting to DPW? But having a transportation planner in place and thinking about these strategically could go a long way. Expanding the city's tree canopy. We have the Greening the Gateway Cities program. It's an awesome program. Continue to work with DCR on that, and trying to see, like, how can we move it forward so that more people can continue to, like, add more coverage in our city. Regular transportation planning engagement opportunities. We have the traffic commission, people are plugging into that, but there's still some friction that exists with the public and their challenges that they're seeing day to day with transportation. We have planning in place when it comes to housing, when it comes to zoning, but transportation should also have planning in place where when there's a change that's coming down the pipeline or when there is something that residents want to come together, how are they engaging in that planning effort? So it would be great if we had some type of planner in place to engage folks on transportation topics. We want to also, it would be great if you all can prioritize the budget cycle in regards to like how do we add people on the traffic commission or make the traffic commission more like community-based. So like maybe where you all think about, is there additional seats that could be added? Or is it that there are a transportation planner and that person is also on that commission? And then Brendan's gonna mention a little bit about enforcement and some things that are coming down the pipeline in regards to the state.
Yeah, there were bills at the State House. This was brought up at the World Day of Remembrance event in Boston yesterday. Senator Will Brownsberger talked about a bill that he has filed about safety cameras and automated enforcement. It would be a municipal opt-in for cities and towns. Right now, it's not permitted in Massachusetts. 22 other states have the ability for cities and towns to have automated safety cameras to issue people basically a similar thing to a parking ticket. It would go to the vehicle, not the driver, for speeding violations, or there's also a red light option as well. It would be a municipal opt-in. There's a bill at the State House, Senate 2344 and House 3754. It's already been through the Joint Transportation Committee. The Senate bill received approval. It's now with Senate Ways and Means, and the House bill is still in the Joint Transportation Committee. It got its reporting deadline extended. So we would encourage you to support that as well if this is a priority for the council. So those are all that was our quick, you're not looking at the presentation. Happy to answer any questions or conversation.
Thank you. Councilor Razak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for the presentation. Sorry that the technology isn't working in our favor, but my question to you, so it's very informative. I know that you've done your research. I was aware of the walks. I know many of my constituents, a few of them attended the Montello one. So once again, this is amazing. You've done the research. You've presented to us. But this, just hearing from your findings, it involves a lot of different departments. You mentioned the Traffic Commission, which is in charge of any kind of signage, traffic enforcement, speeding, crosswalks, but then you also mentioned engineering, DPW, and also you mentioned the transportation planner, which would involve the mayor actually putting that forward to creating this job. So, I mean, that's just to name a few, but it involves a lot of different departments, entities. Have you met with them? Have you presented this in front of the Traffic Commission or met with the DPW Commissioner?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. And I would say, yeah, we actually had some of their members attend, city staff attend our walk audits and engage in this process, and we shared the reports with them and asked for feedback and insights. We had city engineers attend the west side walk audit from DPW, and we had 2 planners, unfortunately they moved on, attend our walk audits. And yeah, so there's been great engagement, and they've provided us a lot of this insight, and you're right, there's a lot of bureaucracy in regards to transportation planning, and it would be great to like streamline and clarify, and it's an opportunity with new administration coming in to see how can we like clarify and restructure things for more efficiency and to make sure that we get better results on our roadways.
Yeah, I think the city of Worcester is actually a pretty good example with this. They restructured how everything operates. They created a new Department of Mobility probably 2 or 3 years ago now, to try to get their hands around that, because transportation is complicated because so many people touch it, right? And we all experience it every day. I drove here from Framingham, right? I experienced transportation, let me tell you. But yeah, there are so many different moving parts. So I think some of this is about taking a step back and being like, what are the priorities for people getting around in Brockton? Like, how can we think about these different needs? If the priority is we want to make sure that people don't get hurt on our roadways in Brockton, it's like, okay, if that's our goal, how do we work back to that goal? Okay, we need to slow some people down. Okay, if we're going to slow people down, what are some of the options for doing that? We can do some raised crosswalks. We can think about bump outs. Okay, that involves engineering. Okay, we got to get engineering on board. How do we start working that? So I think working from a goal of whatever that goal is, I would encourage you to have that goal be, let's make it safe for everyone to get around, and working back from there is, I think a planner would be very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Which I agree, and I'm very sad that, our planning department, not too long ago, maybe last month, a few months ago, it was really flourishing, and now sadly, it's not, so I'm very disappointed. So hopefully we build it back up. So that's kind of like my question. You've done your audit, so I'm hoping that's not the end of your job. Is part of your job is to continue so we can implement your findings and kind of take some of your recommendations and fix them? I know you said our streets are not ADA friendly, and I know that for a fact, but in a perfect world, we'd be able to redo all our streets and fix them, but it's kind of patchwork. It's,
Sure.
As we go along.
Taking advantage of opportunities as they arise, which is great.
But, so what can we do? Like, my point is I don't want to see this fizzle like a lot of studies do. We do a lot of study. In my 12 years on the council, we've done a lot of studies, and they kind of fizzle, disappear, and then a few years later, we need to do another study. So
I think an exciting piece is that we did get this grant extended into 2026. So
very good.
Maybe we can work with our partners at the Old County Planning Council and think about more of how do we formalize or make a recommendation to formalize some of these findings, or make a recommendation to the council to kind of think about how you can have the Traffic Commission be charged with leading a walk audit once a year or once a quarter to, really, if they're hearing more from residents, how do they try to take complaints and turn it into action, and getting people out on the street and coming up with ideas to kind of formalize those complaints into constructive feedback.
Sure. No, that sounds great. I know we have a representative from the planning board that serves on the Traffic Commission, and there are, their department heads. We have volunteers as well as, counselors that serve on the Traffic Commission. But anybody can go and, present, so as long as you get on their agenda. So I'm sure they're open to that. I'm going to say to you, thank you. I think it's a wealth of information. It's kind of common sense. We've seen this when stating all your findings. I'm like, oh, I know that. I know we don't have curb cuts here, and, some of our speeding on our streets. So I'd like to help any way I can. So whatever I can do to help you continue to move forward so we can get some of these findings rectified, I'm here to support you. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Castro.
Thank you. Good evening, gentlemen. Thanks for waiting it out and presenting your results. And I really appreciated the Campello walk audit. I'm sorry I couldn't be there. Very quick story. So you mentioned trash in Campello, and it's true. The Campello Business Association, which is the oldest business association in the city, they had these lovely trash barrels made by Southeastern Regional students. And so they put them out, and they were working, and then people started noticing that they were full every day. and someone caught, I believe on camera, people would pull up in the morning with their cars and put their household trash in the Campello neighborhood trash barrels. And so some of the guys sort of got mad, and they emptied them and they took them in, and that's why you don't see trash barrels around Campello. Again, not the intended use, and I understand what you're saying, because I see the CVS bags flying around as I'm driving around as well, but that's the reason why, the inappropriate use. So where do we go from here?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you for elevating that, and I think like that's like a real problem that exists in our community, is like dumping and, enforcement, and how do we get people to do the right thing. I think it's a cultural shift too that we need to have in the city, like, make sure that people are prideful and utilizing things the right way, and for that, I think like we can't, I would strongly encourage folks to not take things away, to like really work to see how can we like actually like lean into the problems and try to address them, instead of just like pulling these amenities away sometimes.
Yeah, I know Boston had been having a problem with that, so they changed the style of trash can. They got like the big belly ones that had a smaller entry point, smaller opening for things. And I think they were picking them up more often because they found that they were still being filled, but it's because there was no other trash can around. So, yeah.
I would say like bad actors could hurt all of us if we continue to always look at how the bad actors are impacting us, and then we're making those accommodations just for them. We should try to build a community where, we're building stuff out for all users and address the bad actors individually when possible. I know it's not easy, and it's definitely an uphill battle, and I appreciate what folks are doing, because it is a public-private partnership, and I appreciate them doing something, and then having to deal with that challenge is not easy. But it would be great if we can like lead into those challenges together.
Okay, thank you. Shall I make a motion to recommend favorably?
Second.
I have a follow-up on the motion.
So,
On the-
yeah, is anybody else want to speak on this matter before Councilor Razak gets a second chance?
I'm going to be
Seeing none.
really quick, but that was part of my notes, just to speak on the trash. And this comes back to a lot of how to get results is also enforcement. 11 to 12 years ago, I wrote an ordinance with stating that all commercial businesses should have trash receptacles, so people would have somewhere to throw their trash. And I mean, it's on the books, it's out there, but it's not being enforced, and that's something that we need to do. We have a lot of ordinances that cover a lot of the stuff, but it's enforcement, so I would like to see that happen. So thank you. I just want to make sure, because it was on my list, and I'm passionate about trash. We really need a clean city, and it doesn't take much to clean, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Councilor.
Chairman.
Gentlemen, I just want to thank you guys for appearing tonight. It was a well-presented report, both what you presented tonight, the reports that you forwarded to the city, a lot of good information, and we're going to keep working on our transportation needs throughout the city, because it's greatly needed to ensure that we have a safe environment for all our residents and pedestrians. So thank you, gentlemen, for being here this evening.
I just want to underscore that we really want to also thank the City of Brockton and folks that have participated in these, and also the Old Colony Planning Council and the Brockton Workers Alliance, who also participated in these efforts. So.
Thank you so much. Councilors, if no further questions on this matter,
You haven't voted.
I will, do we?
made a motion.
Motion is made, properly seconded, to recommend this resolve favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? The resolve is recommended favorably.
Thank you.
Thank you again, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
We have one item left, the appointment postponed from earlier in the meeting. We have the appointment of F. Peter Gaskins of Country Club Lane, Brockton, Mass. to the Cemetery Board of Trustees for a 5-year term ending in November 2029. Invited F. Peter Gaskins, Jr.
Mr. Gaskins, does not appear that Mr. Gaskins is here this evening. I'd be happy to continue this matter to the next Finance Committee meeting if
I'd make that motion.
you did.
I will
You
make
will.
that motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Motion has been made to postpone.
Second.
Motion is made and probably second to postpone this matter to the next Finance Committee on December 1st. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Matter's postponed. That concludes our agenda for this evening, and with no further city business. Oh, that's right, Councilor recognition. I apologize. Councilor Griffin.
No, I'm just standing.
Oh, you're just standing? Oh, okay. I know. So, councilors, I do want to open it up for council recognition, if anybody has anything. Seeing none, with no further business before this council, I declare this meeting adjourned.